Hello there guys, what is going on? Son of Chelsea back here again for another edition of Let's Talk Chelsea. Hope you're all doing well. Going to be talking today about Declan Rice. Have Chelsea put a bid in for the West Ham midfielder to potentially come in as Chelsea's new centre-back next season? Also, Tagliafico, will he be a big option for Chelsea at left-back? And as well, Tiémoué Bakayoko, will he be leaving to go to AC Milan this summer permanently? But before we get into any of that, I want to ask you guys, if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button and a notification bell so you never miss an upload. Also hit that like button if you're enjoying the content because it helps out the channel as well. Let's firstly start off with Declan Rice. Declan Rice, I spoke about centre backs yesterday and I didn't speak about Declan Rice as one of those targets yesterday because I've spoken a bit about him on the channel before and gone into why Chelsea would be interested in him. It seems very likely now that Chelsea are going to pursue Declan Rice. He is going to be the first choice target. Whether he will be the only defensive recruitment Chelsea make, and I'm not talking about left back here, I'm also talking about, maybe another centre back, potentially Declan Rice because of his ability to play in central midfield as well as a CDM, potentially with N'Golo Kante as well. Chelsea may look at, say, a Lewis Dunk, for instance, or a Tarkowski from Burnley as another centre-back to bring in. I think that very much depends on who Chelsea sell as well. I think that very much is reliant upon that. I think if we keep most of the current centre-backs, I think Declan Rice may be the only centre-back type signing we make. But this came out yesterday. There was a lot of excitement on social media by Chelsea fans because it appeared that maybe Chelsea had put in a bid. They say from Angelo Magenta, who's a reporter for Sky Sports, claiming that Declan Rice is the priority as new centre-back for Chelsea. Frank Lampard wants to bring him to Stamford Bridge. Chelsea's first official bid is 50 million to West Ham. The CFC board wants Declan Rice. Now, instantly, of course, a lot of reaction to this. Chelsea have put in a bid. They're serious to get Declan Rice. But Jacob Steinberg from The Guardian, who I trust a lot, said instantly, basically rejecting it, saying no bid from Chelsea for West Ham's Declan Rice. So I'd hold off on excitement that this has actually been an official bid by Chelsea, sort of waiting for that. I think Sky Sports, for me, as I'll get on to with Tagliafico, not the most trusted source anymore. So I would wait to hear from the likes of Jacob Steinberg, Matt Law reporting on this before we say, yeah, Chelsea definitely in for Declan Rice now. But it does appear from everything we've been reading recently, reports around Declan Rice, that he is the first choice target. I mean, we heard about 65 million last week. That was in relation, I think, from Matt Law, potentially Jorginho going to Juventus. Of course, a lot has changed since then. Of course, Maurizio Sarri being sacked by Juventus, will that change that? And could that affect the Declan Rice deal? But definitely first choice is Rice. And it very much follows up with what we were seeing this summer. Chelsea are looking to back Frank Lampard all the way. They're not messing about. In previous summers, we've seen Chelsea not get their first choice target, or maybe, save a little bit of money going for a cheaper option. It does not appear that's going to be the intention this summer by Chelsea. They're looking to get the majority of their first choice targets. They've already done that with a lot of players, potentially Kai Havertz as well, and Declan Rice will be another one of those players. As I already said, potentially a new centre-back as well, maybe a Lewis Dunk type player. Simon Johnson, the Chelsea reporter for The Athletic, very trusted, said that Chelsea are still looking to make 2 or 3 signings in this window. So that's unsurprising to me, but it's good to see that Declan Rice appears to be one of those first choice targets, and Chelsea will be going out there trying to sign him. We just have to wait to see from other reporters and other sources whether that bid is true and whether Chelsea will be going in very seriously for him. Next is Tagliafico, Nicolas Tagliafico from Ajax, the left back. Chelsea need a new left back. Ben Chilwell appears to be the first choice target, in Sky Sports yesterday reporting here that Chelsea are interested in the Ajax left back. Tagliafico has been capped 25 times by Argentina and could become the second Ajax player to make the move to Stamford Bridge ahead of the new season following the arrival of Hakim Ziyech. Now, this did make me chuckle when I first read it because we've known about Chelsea's potential interest in Tagliafico for a number of months. I mean, I spoke on the channel back in May. I had to go and check this. At the back end of May, Matt Law was reporting that Tagliafico could join Chelsea for a 22.4 million fee. So once again, I mean, Sky Sports, it's not really an exclusive. It's not really breaking news to me. Tagliafico is one of those names that has been mentioned continuously from Chelsea. We've spoken about a lot on the channel. I really do think Tagliafico is a great plan B option for Chelsea if Chilwell falls through. I definitely think one of these big targets will fall through just because of the realistic nature of the transfer window. Chelsea have had a pretty ridiculous transfer window so far that could get even more ridiculous in the coming weeks. But I think that just realistically, the budget, the funds that Chelsea have, I think is just going to be down to one of those players you potentially have to go for your second choice. And I think Tagliafico is a really decent second choice. I think for what Chelsea are looking for in a left back, I really don't want Chelsea to go through this window not signing a new left back because I think it will really hurt us, especially in our attacking play as well. I mean, everyone talks about defensively, but I think in our attacking play we'll be limited if we don't have a new left back. Of course, defensively, that's the big concern for Chelsea, but I think Tagliafico, for his experience, for his age, I think he's a really good option. If Chelsea are interested in him and Chilwell is not realistic this summer, I would go in for him. He'd be my first choice behind Ben Chilwell from the targets we've heard continuously in recent months for left backs for Chelsea. I know a lot of people rate Tagliafico much higher than Ben Chilwell, so please let me know your opinions on Tagliafico. Do you think he'd be a great option for Chelsea this summer? And lastly, going to talk about Bakayoko, Tiémoué Bakayoko. It appears that, of course, he will be leaving Chelsea permanently this summer. Chelsea, he's one of those players, the Deadwood type players on loan that Chelsea want to get rid of for a good fee to potentially help funds in the transfer market this summer. Fabrizio Romano tweeting last night that AC Milan have started talks with Chelsea to sign Tiémoué Bakayoko, a €3 million loan plus a 35 million buy option ready to be offered as a first bid. The player wants to come back to AC Milan. Of course, Bakayoko has been on loan to AC Milan previously. Now, whether Chelsea agree to this deal, I think this is the start of a lot of deadwood going out the club, cutting our losses with a lot of players. I think Danny Drinkwater, that's going to be a big thing, as well as some first team players that are actually currently at the club. We've spoken about before, Michy Batshuayi potentially. It's going to be difficult getting those players out and actually to clubs who are going to spend big. I think Chelsea need to lower their price with some of these players. Personally, I was listening to some podcasts recently about this where it's like Chelsea want a lot of money for these players, but especially with a player like Batshuayi, different to Bakayoko. Batshuayi's barely played recently, and to expect to get like 40 million for him, I think is a bit ridiculous. It's a shame for Bakayoko, it really is. It just never worked out at Chelsea. He started off really well. I remember him and Kante forming a really good relationship. I remember Bakayoko getting injured during that first season. I also remember that terrible first half display. I believe it was against Watford. We lost to Watford and he got sent off in about half an hour, got 2 yellows. One of the worst individual performances by a Chelsea player I've ever seen. And unfortunately, I think fans turned on him there, and it looked like it was just never going to be good enough for Chelsea. I remember actually in that season, he came back and had 2 really good games. I remember he performed really well against Man United in the FA Cup final. And you maybe thought, okay, maybe he can come back stronger next year. As is always the case with Chelsea, the chopping and changing of direction and managers really didn't help Bakayoko, I felt. Bringing in Sarri, who wanted a regista, Jorginho coming in there. And I think the style of play Chelsea moved to post-Conte, I think was never going to suit Bakayoko. I've heard some people say, should be bringing him as a rotational player, but I just think now it's too far gone at this point. I think Bakayoko obviously maybe enjoyed his time as AC Milan and then cut our losses basically. I think it's the same situation with Danny Drinkwater and basically summing up that awful 2017 summer transfer window by Chelsea. Do you think Bakayoko could have ever made it at Chelsea? Do you think he was ever good enough for Chelsea? Do you think Chelsea will accept this deal and he'll be going to AC Milan this summer? Please let me know in the comments below. But that is it for this edition of Let's Talk Chelsea. Thank you guys so much for taking the time to watch it. If you did enjoy it, hit that subscribe button and a notification bell so you never miss an upload. Follow me on Twitter @SonOfChelsea. Have a great day and I'll see you again.